eVTOL Weekly, eVTOL Weekly, Dylan, my guy, how are we getting on?
Check, check, check. Can you hear me? All is good. All is good. How you doing, Leo?
Oh, do you know what? I'm all right. The week of the market
Yeah,
went into absolute meltdown. Um,
absolutely correct.
Archer down
Let's see. Let's
27%,
see.
Joby down 14%. Beta actually didn't do too bad. It was only 5% down, but then jumping across to what Horizon Aircraft down 20%. Yeah, market meltdown. Um, the big reset they are calling it. Uh,
Yeah,
is it a reset? Is it just a correction? I was listening to Kathy Wood, Um,
yeah,
she seems to think it's more or less going to be a short-term crosswind.
mm,
But yeah, we had the earnings this week. Dylan, after digesting everything that's happened, not even just talking about the earnings, but how are you
yeah.
feeling over this whole week?
Feeling good. Feeling pretty steady. I think, like you said, when you're having these macro conditions come in, when you're having these growth stocks that you're investing in as well, you're going to feel a lot of that pain, especially when those macros are the headwinds coming towards you. So, and also, if you kind of combine that with any news to come through the FAA with the government shutdown as well. So, kind of wrapping that back to the earnings call where we did have both of the CEOs speak that the FAA is still actively engaged with both of the companies through the DARs, DERs, as well with Archer saying that the FAA was continued to the commitment with their program as well. So it's good to see that. But I think, for me on the East Coast in DC, I think a lot of people are ready to see some people get back to work. And it'll be interesting to see if any of the timelines are pushed back on the FAA side with the EIPP kind of once everybody gets back to office and some of those a little bit more of that information is able to be disclosed. And I would say, kind of reflecting off of the earnings call, one thing I didn't hear from Archer at all was any status update percentage wise on where they were in CERT. So even again, if they weren't going to come in higher than the 12%, they did find it valuable enough to fill us in on the last two earnings call that was the status of where they were at certification percentage wise. So I thought that was a little interesting that there was no update on that part of the certification from Archer. And I think we've seen for a few quarters now that Joby just lays out a much cleaner slide deck when it comes to where that they are at in their certification process. So it would be nice on the Archer side to see a little bit more clarity on the certification side. And I think a big question mark out there is still 704AX, because even through being confident where the company still is at with acquisitions that they've made. At this present time, there hasn't been a proven piloted VTOL transition flight from Archer. Now, if you do go back to the earnings calls, even in the prepared remarks, Tom does speak to a bit of his confidence through the unpiloted program, the unpiloted VTOL test campaign with transition that they did last year in 2024. So through that confidence, he feels that the next, basically the next next flight test campaign will be the VTOL as well as the transition test campaign as we kind of phase out of the CTOL test campaign that we're in now. But how are you doing? How you been reflecting on it?
Yeah, really, yeah. So to get it clear, what has been happening? TIA was probably the most important part of Joby's earnings call. We did hear quite a bit about autonomy. Um, we did hear a lot from the Blade CEO, and we'll dissect that a little bit more. I think the biggest part I want to touch on, I think I went a bit mad at the time about uh,
And
that
that's
whole.
that's allowed in this space, right? That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
part of it. It's like you kind of got to be mad to stick around, hang around. So yeah, what you got for us?
yeah. So that whole Hawthorne thing. So initially
Uh,
at the time, look, I think I was more or less just confused. It hit me by surprise. We're an eVTOL company, and why have we all of a sudden purchased an airport? Now, the more I've actually dissected it down, and the more I've thought about it, um, a 30-year lease is actually a decent amount of time for one of these leases. When I actually started banging everything together, and when you were saying we're expecting hundreds, if not thousands, of these in the likes of cities. It
Hmm.
actually does seem like a really good acquisition for the likes of storage, which you said. If we think about it, hundreds, if not thousands of these, where are we actually going to place these? Like,
Hmm.
in the air 100% of the time. They do need to have downtime. And you hit on it very, very well during the earnings call that they will have to have this downtime. Hawthorne would be a perfect place to have it as a storage unit in one aspect. The only problem I've been looking at is
Yeah,
when you look at Hawthorne, it does look heavily compact inside a nice residential area or industrial area.
sure, sure, sure.
How much space can they actually get out of this Hawthorne area? There is a runway already intact there.
I think they
Terminals
said
are all
5,000 foot runway. Yeah, so you're seeing that on the map as well.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think that's a good question as well. And again, maybe if we kind of in the next 3 months kind of do our own kind of security work and seeing out what the build out could look like and expanding Hawthorne out to get additional hangars and such like that. Um, just kind of as we sit and get the guidance and look to see when the ARC facility in Georgia is going to be continue to be further built out, really looking for that for the company Archer as well to continue to maybe to lay that roadmap. I know for us here in Northern Virginia, sometimes you can have kind of like lease swap agreements. So if you look at the properties or that are kind of bordering, just outside of what would be like the fenced area and such, that land may be owned by one of the larger hospital areas, local government, something like that, just depending on how they work it in LA. And then basically you could also do a land swap agreement. And again, this would be dependent on California and LA laws and, through their properties as well. But it is known that there can be the land swap agreement. So maybe also picking up some of the additional Silicon Valley property that is laying kind of on the outskirts. As I was hoping to ask you this, Liam, maybe to help fill myself in and anybody in the community as, kind of breaking away from any of the Tesla rumors. I know that the SpaceX launch, SpaceX center development, so whatever that
yeah,
was
yeah.
kind of in that area. So kind of to debunk that, but maybe lean into Hawthorne as well. Something that I kind of heard repeated on the call was a nod towards innovation and what has come out of that area. So maybe not even necessarily to say what is there currently or what has there been, but what has come out of that general radius of kind of think tank areas. So I think innovation again was kind of stamped through that. And I think, kind of hearing from you, Liam, just kind of curious how to build out this airport, to kind of have maximum ROI on the investment made. And of course, if they have to put any money into any structural build out by acquiring any extra land on the airport, you definitely want to have that come back to you as a, cost positive for you at the end too.
Yeah, so we were doing a little bit of research around Hawthorne, and initially it was for 126 million this cash agreement. Now we were hearing figures right up to was it 171 million to actually develop
Correct.
out that area. Now myself and Dylan were doing a little bit of research to see. Okay, so they're acquiring an airport here. Let's see what the return on investment is like for look, just any general airport in that region. Can we actually deep dive in and see how much money does Hawthorne make? If anything, are they profitable? Are they running at a loss? Because we got to think this
Hmm.
now comes down to operating costs now too, because we literally have an asset. We have an airport.
Yeah.
Um, a bit of bad news, guys. There's no public information about Hawthorne Airport, so we
Of
can't
course.
actually break that down. Now, looking at return on investment for
Yeah.
Hawthorne, are we going to continue this to be a? Is this going to be a stepping stone from LAX? And that's what we were thinking of LAX. Is it going to sort of be an overflow and then get your eVTOLs into town. Are they going to turn this into not only the major hub for Archer Aviation, are they going to turn this into the center of that whole cog, that whole system of eVTOLs in Los Angeles? Are they going to lease out hangars to the likes of Joby Aviation, Beta Technologies? Are they going to they touched on it in the call around having this site as an asset and being able to benefit other UAM manufacturers. But look, I think we really need to sort of dig into the numbers. See, can we find out what's the current margin on Hawthorne at the moment? I know it's going to be hard, even if we can get an estimate of similar airports around there. I think it'll be quite interesting. That way we can start looking at further opportunities. Look, it's one of those, you don't want to be pouring water down a sink without a plug in it. You don't want to be pumping money into this, developing it out if it is just a complete loss of revenue at the moment, especially at this early stage. Adam seems quite excited about the opportunity. I'm still along the belief that it was a spur of the moment this came up, and it sort of fitted in with the whole Los Angeles project, the World Cup, the Super Bowl, and then the Olympics. We heard Reese say that they're really doubling down on this now. They need to be at the Olympics. This is make or break now. But then you did hit it quite nicely that with all this push out and pressure on the Olympics, they were always doubling down anyway. So, look, it's an exciting time. We know Archer have came out and said LA is going to be the I don't know, their little gem they're going to work on at the very start there.
Absolutely. And you know, like you said to it, I think it expands the, you know, and I know it's sometimes in this emerging market, it can be a little head scratching, irritating, whatever word, you know, each individual investor wants to put in there when you do feel like you kind of have a nod on the company and, you know, another fork in the road comes and you're kind of having to dissect and figure out, you know, why did the CEO make this move? And then I kind of had to step back for a second and realize, well, this is why I'm not the CEO of a $6 billion company at the moment, because I was not forward enough thinking into the 3, 5, and 10-year plan of a true urban air mobility air taxi network to really thrive and exist. You know, I think the acquisition would have made me a little bit more nervous. I might have posted something like this on X, but it would have made me a little bit more nervous if maybe it was kind of in the central US, kind of in the middle of nowhere, kind of more of like this like test bed, like a market survey sort of hub. But to have that again so close to not just LAX, but kind of in the heart of LA, with Adam saying again, very high trafficked. Well, very high traffic 2D as well as 3D parts of that city as well. So basically proving out that if that technology can work in such a overpopulated, overcrowded area such as LA, well, then to downsize that to an area like we're talking about in the, you know, kind of middle part of America would kind of in theory not be as difficult as opposed to trying to go the other way on it. And then just to your point as well, you know, I do think it also opens up kind of different business lanes, even if they were, you know, maybe unknown or unintended from me as an investor going in. But, you know, we do still have to see the proof out of Archer's VTOL and aircraft technology. And I'm not saying that that's not going to happen. I still truly believe that they will have a operational VTOL aircraft themselves. But just like, you know, as we talk about, again, the cost on the build out, you know, let's just say a random thing. If they're going to build out 20 hangars for $100 million, you know, I think that's about $5 million a piece just on some random math right there. You know, if you're able then to lease this out to your competitors, and really at the end, if the air taxi network is going to take off, there's going to be competition. And then again, I think it comes down to, like you said before, Liam, when you open up that rideshare app, is somebody who is not extremely brand loyal going to really, make that big of a difference to them, whether it's an S4 picking them up, versus a midnight eVTOL picking them up, or another variation of, could be 3 to 5 other players in the sector. Because I know at this point in time, we talk a lot of Archer, a lot of Joby, but if we do look 3 to 5 years down the road, it'll be interesting to see if any of the IPs that aren't emanated or acquired through these larger companies are actually able to succeed and kind of be a little piece of their air taxi network as well. So yeah, kind of like you said, trying to find that return on investment as you continue to build out, lease out those hangars. And open up, more business units and just kind of more angles for Archer to be a business. Again, not hoping the VTOL fails, but if it was, at least we got some stuff to liquidate right now. So we can figure this out. So
at least we got a runway to take off.
Yeah, at least we got a runway. Yeah.
Guys, do jump into the comments. Let me know, how do you feel about this Hawthorne acquisition after sleeping on it and after analyzing. I'm not as what am I gonna say? I wasn't disappointed. I was more shocked. I'm not. No, I am quite shocked still that they've bought an airport, but like I'm not as taken aback. I can sort of see maybe this. No, it will work, I think, but it was just a strange pivot. Well, not even a pivot, but it was just a strange acquisition. Yeah, I just wasn't expecting it.
Well, and I was thinking of this too, if you don't mind, real quick, on the because we also did get hit with the dilution news on that same day as well. So I think at least last time I checked on Friday, it was minimally 153 million shares. So we'll kind of see throughout the week.
Hit the marker. I actually looked. Has it hit the marker, or
I heard some saying it was going to hit on the 10th, which would technically be tomorrow. But I will say that the volume on Archer was much, much, much higher. I would say probably a good double, if not 2.5 to 3 times the size of normal trading volume through Archer on Friday. So, we kind of have to figure out, because again, me as a retail investor, I'm not, I'll be a part of that 153, but I'm not 53 million shares, moving back and forth. So it'll be interesting to see if like Schedule 13Gs or 13GAs come out, seeing if anybody added and increased to over a 5% position or decreased. And I believe Kathy bought a little bit. I guess it would probably have to be Friday. Probably wouldn't be then Thursday night. So I believe it was a little bit more purchased on Friday. But kind of to wrap the thought back around to the dilution. One, Archer's going to stand on being the one with the highest cash position in the industry. So I'd say probably a year ago or so, and maybe it was through the PR or, just kind of not knowing the fundamentals with inside of Midnight and, the problems that it may incur on the VTOL. It did seem like we were dealing with kind of like a 1A, 1B on the sense of who was going to get to that certification first. And now I think it's been pretty clear for probably at least 2 quarters now that Joby is in the lead of the certification front, looking to move forward there. So, it is these things, as we talk about, in the airport, the higher cash position, things that are maybe keeping Archer at the front of investors' minds or institutional investors' minds, even if it's not them performing with the VTOL aircraft, which is really at the end of the day, the product that they're really selling to the investing base. But kind of to go again on that was, as we have these MOUs in place, it's again the $6 billion back order. And, we've seen that there are MOUs from decently credible organizations or organization entities, companies. So take the Korean Air or United, for example. If they have these MOUs to purchase 100 aircraft, I'm just kind of curious on a business side where maybe you could get direct payment for 5 of those aircraft. So let's just take United, for example, where if they have an MOU in place for 100 of the aircraft, what kind of is preventing them to do maybe a hard order and put a $25 million cash payment down for 5 Midnight to be delivered, at X date with maybe a little condition on there where, if the aircraft is not delivered by this date, you either get your money back in full or, we prorate down the cost of the aircraft until we're able to deliver that to you. Because I was just kind of thinking, and it's crazy when you think $125 million isn't that much money. It's a ton of money to me, but that's not me shopping with a $2 billion, checkbook or, and checking and savings and all that. So basically my point is, they did go back to the dilution bucket. They diluted for over what the cost of the airport was. I think if they diluted for the cost of what the airport was, I think that would have actually signaled a little bit more weakness in the cash balance.
Oh yeah.
And books, it's kind of like, why are we having to do this just to get that? And if you do take into account Hawthorne, Lilium, Over Air, Mission Critical Composites, the 650 is still more, but it does catch up a lot of that money that was kind of burned away. I don't want to say burnt away, but was used in making these acquisitions and acquiring this IP in these portfolios. So, but yeah, it just kind of, but he did say dilution is done for a while. So, me as a shareholder, I can take that for what it is, be happy that he's, what you want to say, comfortable, confident in his company's cash balance sheet moving forward through the next year, hopefully through 2026. And I guess as the investor, as myself, I look at these opportunities again, where sometimes buying into strength at $10 because I'm figuring the next leg up is going to be good news catalyst for Archer that sends it to the 12s. And then sometimes you get hit with dilution news that sends you back to the 8s. So, for me, was comfortable buying it in the 10s. So if I have a chance to get some in the 8s for myself, it sounds good. Company's still intact. And the VTOL flight campaign should be taking place in Q1. So that'll be exciting too.
Do you know what? We just need that to take place now at this stage. I can't wait for it. Speaking about the prices, JP Morgan did lower their price from $10 to $8, and I think Needham went from 13 to 10, if I believe. Look, I think it's kind of playing into them at the moment that the government was shut down. I think they're reopening tomorrow, if I'm not wrong. Are they?
I've heard the rumors, so yeah, I can't break the news, but I think they are getting back in tomorrow. So obviously, market effects on that as well.
Hopefully, anyway, in a positive way.
Yeah.
We just don't need them shares to all of a sudden just start dropping. That might pull the market down again. But yeah, we had FS Popcorn. The Terry, big shout out, my guy.
Hey, Terry.
Love to see you. Daika, what's up, guys? Ready?
Oh,
26. Big shout out. Anthony, government shutdown over. Let's go. We're hoping so. And then Christian White was here with me for a solid 2.5 hours earlier. We were trying to cover a launch, and
did they get up?
Nah, I didn't get up. It's race schedule.
Okay.
Wednesday she should be going up, so we'll be covering that again, guys. Randy says surprise live.
80%. Yeah,
later on.
There you go.
That it's later on.
Hey,
but,
Randy, how you doing?
No, we go live every Sunday for eVTOL Weekly. We did drop it for 2 weeks or so. It could have been 3 weeks actually. Look, there was a big changeover in the whole Hustle Brother setup. We're now back to the OG. So yeah, we're back and we're ready to go. Diane Hicks. They stated it is already producing income. They also said it has 80 acres, which lends a variety of possibilities. Private jets can avoid the whole LAX 7 hours, then grab an eVTOL. Yeah, do you know what? There's so many avenues they can go down with that. I just think at the time I was quite taken aback from it was a lot of money to spend just to avoid LAX. But no, I completely get what you mean. Especially around that whole Olympics time, LAX will be a nightmare. But
and also
I'm
too,
more bullish about it being a hub,
Let's say one more time, Liam. I apologize. I talked over you.
I'm more bullish about it being an eVTOL hub more than the link of an airport. But
and to that, he did make that same statement, and I'll grab the quote, probably put it out later on X, but basically that. So to paraphrase, that this is basically the eVTOL hub of the future, and he can see these starting to I'll say, kind of go up, or maybe these being acquired, in either. He said that one, they would be hard to acquire as they don't come up very often, but kind of the general look, experience, feel. I think that he's going for with Hawthorne is going to be kind of the eVTOL hub of the future, that at least Adam and his crew are intended to look for. Oh, and the other part, that I felt like he kind of stamped a little bit in the earnings call was when he was mentioning the vicinity of Hawthorne to SoFi. And he kind of made this remark with the Olympics. He kind of stamped that is where they're doing the opening ceremony. So again, I know we don't kind of, we're not here to like spread the pump and fake connect dots, but I would be very, very interested if Archer could pull together something where they are a part of the opening ceremony and incorporate themselves into that. So I don't know if it's pipe dreaming or trying to hear Adam's vision and look at 2-3 years ahead in the future, but it would be extremely incredible for the company to be involved in the opening ceremony of the Olympics.
I am going to touch on a bit of Joby in a minute, guys, but
Yeah.
one thing that was confusing me going around, there's a lot of talk around. I don't know how it spiked back up about Archer paying for their partnership with the Olympics. It's one of those, guys. You don't get nothing for free in this life. Joby had full right. They could have done the exact same thing, but they didn't. So just leave it be, guys. Same with the NVIDIA partnership with Joby. I can have a bet we will see further on down the line that Joby will be paying for NVIDIA chips. We'll see how it goes. If it's the experimenting for NVIDIA, maybe they might get away with it. But do you know what? I just wouldn't. What's really, really, really grinding me down lately is I go on X and I feel like all I see, instead of seeing information about Archer and Joby, the guys that cover Archer are taking shots at Joby, and the guys that are covering Joby are taking shots at Archer. And it's like, do you know what? We could have something so beautiful here where we're creating and synthesizing so much information. But instead, I feel like the Joby guys are searching up Archer more, and Archer searching up Joby more, and it's just
that's so interesting, right? I know sometimes it is that sense. I feel like I can learn almost the newest thing from somebody that maybe is a little bit more heavily invested into Joby, and then they surprise me with a fact on Archer that I'm just like, but yeah, that is correct.
Yeah,
but no,
I'm not gonna lie. If you're gonna educate someone, like the biggest problem here, the Archer guys want the Joby investors to invest in Archer, and Joby investors want the Archer investors to invest in them. And I can tell you, I promise you guys, by putting out more information about your own stock that you're invested in a positive light, you're going to get an awful lot more people than by beating down another stock and making someone feel like they're in the wrong. Because the problem is you're going to make them feel that they're in the wrong, and then all of a sudden they're just going to stop investing. They feel like they've done it wrong. They feel like they have to pick a team. Guys, there's no teams here. Team eVTOL.
And that's a great point, Liam. Team eVTOL. No, I think you hit that. And at least from the U.S. side, it is. I understand that these are aircraft, so you do have Boeing and other quote unquote competition, but there are some general monopoly rules when it does come to business in the U.S. So there usually has to be a competitive party when you have a market. So your AT&T to Verizon, your Lyft to your Uber. And that's not to say that the second one will, your Coke to your Pepsi. It's not to say that the second one is always going to be just as good or better or can outpass the first one. But I don't know. For me, I've always just find it kind of hard to believe. And when I started first really deep diving into this, and I've said it a million times, it was the All In Summit podcast when it was Joby and Adam and with CEO on stage. And I'm just like, okay, like this is kind of like a marriage. We got 3 CEOs in the same industry on stage, like kind of talking with each other, at a minimum. And maybe, some of the division maybe came as the CEOs themselves, were taking shots at each other. That just kind of actually just flipped on for me. Great thing about eVTOL Weekly, it can open your brain, and make me think a little bit more about what's going on in this space. And, maybe that bled down to the investors as well, where, like you said, it seemed like kind of choosing a team in this and, seeing who's going to hold the trophy at the end. But I could be wrong, and maybe it's just a different company if you want to cut Archer out of the mix. But I just find it hard to believe that the electrical vertical takeoff business is going to take off, no pun intended, without without a competitive angle to really enter the market. So basically, in a long-winded way of saying, long story short, I think it's going to be two, if not more, eVTOL companies that are profitable. I'll say profitable even. It's going to be a few years for that to happen, but for them to be in the market, and it will be really interesting. Kind of once the eVTOL industry does start to ramp in the air taxis, in the commercial air taxis, 27, 28, 29 years, 27, 28, and 29, what these companies' market caps also look like at that time, and kind of relative to how much forward strength they're showing, or pullback. And it'll be interesting to see, in 2 and 3 years, what these stock prices, but relative to the market caps, will end up looking like.
Yeah, and then jumping across to Joby Aviation. So, one thing Joby Aviation done very, very beautifully in the press release is demonstrating their stage in certification. You know what? Nice, clean, beautiful graph with percentages, and that's all we needed. Archer Aviation, on the other hand, wanted to throw us down I don't know. You need to be a rocket scientist to work that out. Also, why do Archer have to break into 4 phases? Joby breaking into 5.
That's a great question. Yeah,
I much prefer Joby's approach.
I do.
It just looks so much cleaner. I can easily look there now. I can see the more or less completed stage 2. I'm not going to throw it up on the screen here. It will take me too long for what I'm saying about it. They completed stage 1. They completed stage 3. They're 3% the way to finish stage 2. Stage 4, 33% left on, or 23% left on their behalf.
Nice.
And yeah, they've 90% of the way to go in stage 5. We got that power on for the TIA. Joby feel like they're modester. They feel like they're touching it. We did hear about scaling of the manufacturing facilities. The propellers, TIA coming out. It feels like Joby are just running now. They're not walking no more. Running. We did get verification that Ohio can produce up to 500 S4. What really, I keep saying that Covington, Georgia for Archer can scale up to 950, but we did openly hear, I think it was Adam, come out and say that it'll be 50 midnight for the first year. Very, very similar to Joby's 50 for the first year, so we're not going to get them on the edge there.
Just a quick maybe knock on Archer, just again, because if it's guidance, and I do take the earnings calls pretty seriously. I go back, I'd listen to them 3-4 times. Like, I literally, for me, it's one thing to read a transcript, but I really like to really hear the tone of what's being said. And, when you talk about the 50 aircraft, Liam, I'd always in previous calls heard like 50 and 26, the scale up to this, and we're going to get to, just like you were saying, the numbers that we're talking about right there. And what I heard, I want to say too, if not a third time on the call, was we'll be able to produce 50 aircraft per year. And it just was something that kind of stuck in the back of my head. I'm just like, yes, but which year? But Okay, now you said per year again, like,
Per
yeah,
year,
so
so
are
like
we
multiple years.
27, 28? Yeah, so where's the ramp? You know, it just seemed like, I don't know, you know, and again, I could be reading too much into it, but it is the words that were said on the call. So, you know, seeing and hearing that Joby does lean in on that Dayton factory, and you know, would love to see more about getting that thing tooled out, and you know, have the ability to not only scale just the propellers, but also, you know, maybe get some frames going in there, some full assembly build, and really get the S4s kind of cranking out of that Dayton facility as well. It's gonna be, and I think like, and I'm sorry I'm talking so much, Liam, but when this is what happens
It
when you
makes my
rest,
job easier.
yeah, rest on eVTOL thoughts for a few days, you know, can't stop talking about them. But you know, I think some, you know, two things kind of aligned with both of the companies. But we will play this back towards Joby, is, you know, the Q3 cert for GCAA, working in Abu Dhabi, but also more that it seems like both of the companies were saying that there's more demand than they have the ability to supply. So I guess, you know, just kind of leaning back to the Dayton facility, you know, it'll be very interesting to see some timetable updates, maybe come Q4 on the next call, but really see what we're able to scale out on the S4s inside the Joby factory, because it's time. I think they need to get these things built and ready to sell.
And we always knew this was going to happen. We always knew that we were going to get 2 certification. And it's like, right, we can't actually get enough of these out quick enough.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the problem for the next few years. It's going to be like, yeah, but just get more out. We
Yeah.
don't care, just get more out. Jumping back to the comments, we do have Fadista there. Big shout out, my guy. Thank you for always showing up. Christian says the shutdown should be over tomorrow and market should rebound. I really hope so. Big shout out, Bruce. Started investing in Joby about a year ago. Though I thought and still believe they have the better product. Yet last Friday I bought my first Archer shares. Price is right. Let's go eVTOL. Look, Bruce, you know what? That can be commented a day at this stage,
I
yeah?
agree.
Team eVTOL. Bruce, big shout out. You're open to expanding your knowledge on all eVTOL companies. And I think I honestly believe they're the investors that have the edge. They can look past everything and they're looking at what each company does best. Look, I invest in Rocket Lab. There's certain things I believe Rocket Lab could do better. Look, if I was diehard, I wouldn't have a house. You'd throw absolutely everything if you had 100% conviction. Like I was saying in the stream earlier on, I spent 22,500 today on buying cattle. Yeah,
I remember. Yeah. Tell me about that.
If I was that confident that Archer, Joby, Beta, Rocket Lab, Horizon was gonna jump up 50%, 100%, I'd have no reason to pull in cattle.
That's fair.
Look, I'm expecting about a 50% margin on the cattle. Yes, it's going to take me a lot more physical labor, but to me, spending that 22.5K, you need to keep taxman away somehow, my guys.
You got it. No, you're on it though. No, that's a very good point. And no, I was just kind of smiling when you were talking earlier, Liam, and we're getting those. So, you know, I was like, man, I gotta talk to Liam to see how these new cattle are doing, to see how they're settling in.
Do you know what? I might go live from the farm tomorrow. Just a quick
Love
round.
it.
I do like my Monday morning live. Sometimes I sit in the car. Do you know why? Sometimes it's clear the thoughts. It's like this therapy. You get this, like, do you know, this clouded mind about eVTOL sometimes. And my problem is here, yeah, guys. Market opens over here for me. It's 2:30. So 2:30 p.m. in the day. So I have all morning to like ruminate on thoughts about the whole market. I do see what everyone's posted at night, but no one's awake. So I'm here on my own, just like rattling my head. I just need to speak to you guys. So anyone that's up at like 6 a.m. in the morning, over
there you go.
you hit me up, my guys.
Absolutely.
Christian said I would expect next year buy up tomorrow morning. Really hope so. Not gonna lie. like Jackson, I really like this. At this point, you can knock one or the other, but both will make it big. And that's the thing. With that early in this, I could make a bear case on both, and I can make a bull case on both.
Mhm.
Not both of them are not doing things absolutely perfect. You could rip both of them apart. I could tear both of them a new one for these earning calls, but I could also, I think, looking at it, I think these two earnings calls were the best two earnings calls I've covered yet. Where both of them
Yeah.
just seem to be making strides. I feel, look, to be fair to Joby, there's not really much BS. They normally tell you how it is. With Archer, Adam was confident. He laid out his plan, and I feel like we weren't sold a dream this time, and that's all I wanted. Do not sell a dream. Mike Jackson wants a 30-second take on Horizon. No, guys.
Okay. Yeah. Let them know.
Anthony can vouch for me here.
Yeah.
Myself, Anthony, and Matan had a private call there all the way back. Anthony, jump into the chat and let me know when we had that private call. It was one morning, I was up and the boys were up anyway. I think it was nighttime over there. And we were speaking Horizon Aircraft, and I shared out my honest thoughts about Horizon Aircraft. And I didn't want to come on YouTube and be bearish on the whole Horizon story, but I did say at the time it was extremely overvalued. I said I don't feel confident covering them when there's not much news of substance coming out about Horizon. I think, Anthony, you'll be able to let me know if I am correct or incorrect. I think we were about 360 at the time, and absolutely everyone was calling for $5. And at the time, I said we're sooner going to $2 than we're going to $5. I laid out my reasons why. I said that the cash runway just is burning up. I said it feels like we're saying we can do all this, but at the same time, like, you need to think about a company as, think of it as a tree, yeah, and the roots. And what I feel with Horizon at the moment, it feels like this route is saying we're going to do Medivac. This one's saying we're going to do defense. This one's saying we're going to do cargo. This one's saying we're going to do regional. We're going to enter the drone industry, but we're also going to do the Cavorite X7. We do have this technology, but we're going to do that. It just feels like we're doing everything, or we're doing nothing.
Yeah. How you feeling? Yeah.
What it feels like is, look, if Archer Aviation came out and said we're going doing Medivac, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing that, we're doing that, it'd be told we're pushing too much PR.
Yeah.
But we're letting them away with it because it's ran up so much and there's such a small market cap. Look, if you want my honest thoughts about Horizon Aircraft, if you want this to be a big boy company, I'm going to analyze it as a big boy company. If you want it to be a speculative play, a momentum, or like a slow grower, a nice, or not a slow grower, a fast grower, you want it to be one of these nice plays that we've investigated and it does well. Look, we've done that right now, but if you seriously want me to be covering Horizon constantly, you probably ain't going to get what you want out of it. You're not going to get me saying it's going to $10, which I know, and this is why I stopped going on your Reddit group, because they all attacked me on it because I'm too. But I said this was going to happen. I said when we're at 380, we ain't going to 5. There's no institute back behind it. So I said, as soon as this collapses, the only thing bringing this up at the moment is retail hype, and yeah, we're going to go to 5 and keep buying. But as soon as that boy pulls the carpet, next one, I'm selling, and we just collapse. And that's what we've experienced now. But look, it's not all doom and gloom. The company have a solid plan But for me to cover it every week, like I do with Archer and Joby, like Archer and Joby, I try and cover more or less every day. For me to do that, you need to be pumping out new more or less every second day. And like, what do we really get out of Horizon? We're going to this conference, going to that conference. At the moment, we're going through a phase of educating the public about their company, about trying to raise investors, about trying to speak to different partners. Look, every company goes through it.
You got it.
It's not me being bearish about stock. It's the reality of what a company on the NASDAQ do. They don't go from, I don't know, 50, 100 million market cap all the way to 10, 20 billion. And I think everyone's starting to, they're trying to put them on the same page as Archer and Joby, and they're miles off. Like, if Joby is 90% of the way there and Archer is 70% of the way there, Horizon's 2% of the way there.
Yeah.
So, like, they don't even have a demonstrator that can fly. This cash runway is to get to the demonstrator, which will not generate money, and we still have a long way to go. Yes, we can sell the Cavorite X7 as a drone, but it doesn't fit. Like, it's okay saying we can sell it as a drone, but then sell it as a drone.
That is fair. Like, that is fair.
I could sell my house, but I'm not selling my house. I could have put all the money today in Rocket Lab or Archer or Joby, but I didn't. I could have put it all on red and invested everything in Horizon and got a nice 6x or so, but I didn't. Look, is it a little bit of bitterness that I didn't do that? Maybe.
It's okay to be a little FOMO bitter every once in a while, you know? Yeah. I was out of there quick. So, you know, it is interesting to see it run up, but I think very solid and logical points you make, Liam, with, you know, sub $5, it's really not going to be on an institutional's watch list. But, you know, if you're into hover, as you know, as well as any of these eVTOL stocks, I think again, yeah, and I think that's something I agree again, and I think it's something that's really interesting, and you know, can be, you know, telling about this industry is exactly what we're getting from these certification letters and such. And when you have a company like Hover, like you said, where you've kind of laid out where they're looking to get to the demonstrator is not going to be what pulls in revenue. You know, if you are investing in the sector and continuing to learn about those industry leaders like Joby and Archer and seeing kind of what they had to go through in the past, you know, probably 2 to 5 years prior to where we sit at now. Same thing, going to those investor conferences, you know, basically building a reputation through their brand that they're going to want basically to have these analysts covering their eVTOL industry just as they're covering the Jobys and the Archers. You know, there's some, I don't know, it's something very, very nice to me that I'm finding in this eVTOL industry where the roadmap for investment is kind of laid out in front of us sometimes. And for me, you know, I can maybe be a little bit too ahead of what a tangible plan might be sometimes, just, you know, as a excited enthusiast of the industry. But as the investor, you know, again, you know, if I go to Joby, you know, I basically buy their plans. I have about 12 to 18 months to accumulate for certification and what that could do to the stock price. And I do say could do, because we always have to take into account too, on the hover side, you know, the market cap is probably one of the most realistic. Well, I don't want to say that because it's tough to break that down when they don't have as much of assets to liquidate. But, you know, a lot of the eVTOL companies, even the industry leaders, you know, their market caps are quite large. So, you know, if we are to get dramatic macro conditions to pull these stocks back down, there's a lot of fib levels, I'm sure, that these industry leaders share prices can start breaking and even start coming back down to the 6s, the 5s, the 4s, and the 3s if we get really bad macro conditions. And then again, it's going to be looking behind the hood of these companies to see if they're still able to perform and execute under the bad macro conditions and still make it to the finish line, and to see what pain they're kind of having as we kind of go down that roller coaster. But with sometimes I look at Archer, and I can look at the market cap and see if that's a viable market cap. I can think it's a bit extended based on the revenue that they're able to put on the books today. But then again, I just have to look and I have to think: is this a investment in a emerging industry that will be here in 3 to 5 years? And for me, the flow chart in my head still points to yes. So I continue to back that belief, and continue to, like you said, do that hard research and figure out why is Joby going to Q3 for GCA? Why is Archer buying the airport? And reading through the lines and figuring it out. But yeah, I think you hit it with Hover.
No, thank you so much. And then, like Jackson, I do want to apologize though. None of that was actually directed at you. I actually realized that actually came across like really like this is why. No, my guy, that wasn't directed directly at you. Just some Horizon people have been messaging me, and it's like it is what it is.
Can't do it.
Do you know what? The last thing I'll say about Horizon is we've gone through a beautiful stage of this quick accumulation of wealth in the stock market. And I feel like we're so blinded. I think myself and yourself were speaking about this offline, Dylan, about all of a sudden, like a 10% year is a dreadful year in the portfolio.
Yeah.
So I think we're constantly trying to chase these like absolute mega things, but I don't know. This whole channel is built on we want to get working people all the way up to financial freedom. And one thing I can guarantee you, if we start chasing every exciting prospect along the way, we're going to go somewhere very fast, but it's not where we want to go. Look, there's a lot of exciting prospects out there. There will be an awful lot of exciting prospects out there. If you are new to investing, or you have only really invested in this eVTOL industry, look, opportunities come and go. I could be completely wrong about Horizon Aircraft, and we could be sitting at $10 by end of the year. And look, I'll hold my hands up and say that I was wrong about Well, I wasn't wrong about Palantir. I never said Palantir won't succeed. I just never got into it, and I do regret not getting into it. I didn't know enough about it. If we went all the way back to Palantir at $6 now, with foresight, yes, I would say I'd invest in it. But if I was looking at Palantir now, I still like. The best ever explanation on Palantir I ever got was through VAC&C, who uses it. And that only came there last... No, that's not VAC&C's fault, but that only came last week. So if I can't understand the company, I won't invest in it. And I feel like Horizon is very exciting. We're getting too bogged down in it has superior performance than Archer and Joby, but what does superior performance come down to? It comes down to what you're comparing it against. If you're comparing it for regional flights and speed, yes, it is better aircraft. But are you going to get these Cavorite X7 flying around these short city, intra-city trips? No, you won't. So therefore, the S4 and the Midnight are far superior aircraft for their use case.
That's a very, very fair point. That's fair. Yeah.
And another thing, they do have a lot of use cases, but at the same time, I think about it, I'm like, but don't we all have a lot of use cases? I could be a builder, I could be a nurse, I could be a farmer, I could be... Like, at the same time, I think we're getting too focused on, they can do all this. Let's just do something.
And with that, Liam, it made me think of something. And quick shout out to Amit, who holds a Market Open and Market Close show. Been watching him for like 2 years now, and he was streaming on Friday, and he was kind of talking about with these basically the mega cap companies. How long is it going to take for the ROI, or how long will we need for the ROI to really show on the books for all of the CapEx that's getting spent right now. So basically what I kind of tailor that to the eVTOL show as well is, come 28, 29, 2028, 29, all the money that's being put into the AI and to these software programs, are we going to be at a place, and like you say with the use cases, Liam, and this is kind of why I say this, are we going to be at real world use cases? Are we still going to be at general hypothetical use case scenario where, again, in our heads, either, or I'll speak for me, in my head, at least, I mean, you can think of it, and I'm trying to keep it in the eVTOL world, but, even to Meta and the CapEx that they're spending, to the agentic AI and Google building out the Willow platform, and just all these kind of mega cap companies, and the promises of this AGI coming through. I wonder if we do get 4 to 5 years out, and maybe this is kind of where the eVTOL crosses over with piloted to autonomous, and really the trajectory on when we can expect autonomous flight, where we get to 2029 and we're still kind of having the humanoid robots just do laundry folding and such like that. Have we really got that ROI on the CapEx that was spent out in the past 1, 2, and to come 2, 3 years and ahead? So kind of in that, it will be interesting to see where we've gotten, how many I guess I would say kind of the total number of the fleets in these companies that they're able to produce come 2028, 2029, and actually have in flight. And then to really see the return on the investment. So like if we take Hawthorne today, or from last week, for example, 125 million. And just for anybody, I did share a picture, and it was the very first thing that came up. I just Googled, show me a property worth $125 million in LA, because LA property is not cheap, and it was a beautiful mansion, and that's great, but you're probably only going to land maybe one eVTOL on top of that mansion. So to the ROI 28, 29, it'll be really interesting to see once we look back, was 125, an overshot on the purchase price, or, by that time when Joby might have 250 to 1,000 S4s, and Archer's going to have their 250 to 1,000 Midnight, Beta's going to have their, their bird flying and such, will they be bringing in 105 million a year from Hawthorne? And then that's going to be something that pays for itself right there. So yeah, what is the return on investment? We shall see.
Then Anthony says 1 month ago we had that call. So look, 1 month ago to this date was 290, and then going into that week was when we pushed up towards that 380. So yeah, we did not get anywhere near that $5 before we hit the $2. Dyke Jackson says, all good, brother. No problem at all. Randy does say, if they were testing the full size now, I would invest, because they have the best theory hybrid electric all day. If I could buy one myself, of the three, it would be Hover. And that's the thing. Like, if they were at full size and flying, and they had this capital to get them to full production, they're going to start earning money. Yeah, it's a completely different story. But they have so much to go, and like, I don't know. It'd be like designing a rocket company now and now saying you're better than SpaceX. You might have the best theory behind you, and you have a half-scale model, but it just, I don't know. We just need to wait and see.
Well, and again, too, if you're into hover and you love hover, and I say this because of a comment that Liam made on Archer's dilution, and it was right after the call, and like Liam said, he's going to have the emotion, and he's going to tell you how straight it is, and sometimes I forget that when they dilute, that's technically that's my money, that's my shares, that's my investment that they're diluting. Did I give Archer 125 million to buy an airport? No, I don't have 125 million dollars invested into Archer. Yes, I have my 2 shares, like we joked about the other day. But it's like,
you might have upped the free.
I had to buy the dip and get my third. But so it's like, if you believe in hover, if you think that they can build to a full scale, you have to understand also that your investment is kind of being used in so many ways to build out that full scale model. Even though Brandon has talked about not diluting maybe some Canadian backage, Canadian financial backing, if things were to go south on the books for them and such. But they kind of did hit me in the face, Liam, when you said that. Where even as newlish, bearish to neutral, that I felt on the airport purchase, it was kind of like, oh, great point. Dilution is my shares, and I'm quoting my money. It's all of our investment money, but
Like,
yeah.
what we need to think of, yeah, and this is gonna sound really like, I don't know, callous or something, but when we're talking about a balance sheet that small and 12 million in cash with Horizon Aircraft, well, no, we keep saying 12 million. I can have a bet it's a lot less than 12 million now, because like that was what, 2 or 3 months ago at this stage. So
Yeah.
they have what, a 15-month runway left or so with the cash. Yes, we can say about they got that 2 million grant, but they didn't get the 2 million grant because that's set in tranches and milestones being met. So they didn't just get 2 million up front. Now we got to think they're doing all these conferences, yeah, with $12 million. These guys got to travel to these conferences.
Yeah. No, you're on it. Yeah.
This is your money, guys, you're thinking about, yeah? It's okay. Archer and Joby can go out to Dubai and whatever. I'm not actually paying attention to that because they've 2 million in cash. When you've 12 million in cash, if I had 12 million here, would you be shipping your mate here, there, and everywhere and going to all these conferences and that conference and speaking to this guy and speaking to that guy? Or would you be like, right, guys, we have 15 months left. This is make or break. Instead of going to, I don't know, the rare earth mining conference to tell them how great the Cavorite X7 could be in mining aspects, why don't we save that money and fire it into manufacturing? Because at the same time, this team is not that big either. So when you're taking away any of your team in such a small team, you're slowing down the whole process. We're not talking about Archer Aviation, where you've 1,000 employees and it doesn't matter whether Adam's in the office or Adam's in the UAE. This does matter whether Brandon's on site or Brandon's not on site. And from what I can see at the moment, there's a lot of conferences being done and there's not much updates being done on production. That's my only thoughts, guys.
That's fair.
Vast CNC says, any of these segments, you have to be fine with some of your bets going to zero. Slowly and painfully, or all at once. Vast, I'm on the slow, painful decline of Redwire at the moment. So yes, I completely agree. You have not invested until you've made some very painful errors. And yes, I'm currently in the middle of one. Your job is to diversify and know what you're betting on. Conviction over chasing. Do you know what, Vast? You need to not even be a philosopher, because I don't think it'd do you enough justice. What would I call you? An educational speaker, but a very, very good educational.
A poetic speaker. He's away with the words, right? No, but it's a great point, Bast. I agree with you. And like you said, Liam, being the retail investor, I would hope that maybe somebody's able to make it out without getting scathed, and doesn't have that bad investment. And I'm not saying that New Horizon is that investment that's going to go to zero. It could go to $5 tomorrow. It could chop in half and go to 175. I don't have that crystal ball. But definitely, either through the eVTOL space or just kind of the, because what we are doing is we're kind of taking the money manager out of the circle here. It's a lot of us saying that we're going to take the time to do the DD. We have conviction on X, Y, or Z company, and we're also willing to put our hard-earned money towards those shares at whichever share price it is at that current time. So we are putting it a lot on ourselves to ensure that, we're watching over our capital, not in that situation where somebody else is managing over that money. So, you really do have to be aware and see if that's something that, a ship that you're ready to ride through the ups and downs. Just again, getting surprised, diluted from Archer. Didn't expect it, sitting at 14 something the other, not but 2 months ago or something like that. But outside of that, I'm for Archer, I'm at this time I'm a long-term hold. So even when it got to 14, maybe the smart play would be diversify 20% over those shares, get them either back into the brokerage and hold on to that cash for dips, or reallocate to S&P, or another some more different company with different equity shares within the market. But yeah, the market's tough. It will trick you, it will burn you sometimes, and I hope we all come out of it on the other side with the thicker skin, and kind of knowing what happened during that specific play, and see, was it the company, or was it my execution that kind of had me have a few bad days in the market. So I know last year I got caught up in a FFIE swirl of thing was swinging up, and I didn't even know what a short squeeze was at the time, and they said it was the MOAS of the short squeeze, and thing had rode from 60 cents to 270 like overnight, and I'm just like, small dip down, this will be good tomorrow, and poof, it's gone. And then you're trying to DCA your way down to a share price that you're never going to be profitable on. So yeah, sometimes you got to take those hits in the market, but
we got to think about it. I think sometimes we can look. We're all passionate here. I know we're all passionate about the whole stock market here, but I think sometimes you need to just take a step back, take a step away, and I think that's what I do on the likes of Sundays. I very rarely create a video on a Sunday. I use it for my live streams, and I just take a step back completely and go back to everyday life. And it does make you think, like, guys, you're going to work every single day.
True.
Yeah. You are putting your hard-earned money. What is the average salary in the US? Say, I don't know.
I mean, if we went
40,000, is it?
Yeah, around whole US, maybe I'll cautiously bring it down to, let's call it 30. Let's call it 30. Yeah, just to
that's actually a solid number for what I'm about to do.
Beautiful.
So, 30,000, yeah, and you, even if you're doing that job, you pay nothing. You don't have food to pay. You don't have this to pay. You don't have that to pay. Imagine you are banging the whole 30K that you make every single week. Or every single week. I wish.
There you go.
Every single year. Into the stock market. Now, lots of you are very heavily concentrated in the likes of Archer, Joby, Horizon, etc. Are you able to sleep at night? That Horizon Aircraft. Oh, the only reason I'm saying Horizon is because I'm looking at Horizon's chart at the moment. Horizon Aircraft went down 30% within the last month. So, out of your whole year, I have just taken $10,000 away from. So really, you've worked for 20K.
That's true.
With the thought that you're not safe there. It could go further down. Tell me, with Horizon Aircraft, what is there that makes you think we're going to go back up, apart from your solid belief in the company? What makes you think it's going to go back up to 380 at the moment? For me, I think we could go lower again. With the likes of Archer Aviation, I could sleep a lot better at night, knowing that it went down, say, 27% in a week, because I can actually see the steps they're taking forward towards certification. I can see their whole plan. So, look, I think sometimes when we sit with the stock market, we can get a little bit, I don't know, carried away, and we're buying, next thing we're buying, I don't know, some tire company out in wherever, because Joe Bloggs thinks it's the next best thing.
I mean, the market's so crazy. I was talking with Vast actually, 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, and kind of making the points, or not the point, just throwing out the random hypotheticals where it's like we spend this much time, due diligence, Archer, Joby, eVTOLs, Vast is awesome with the drones, ONDS, Lightpath. I won't mess up all his plays because I probably won't say him right, but he's very dedicated to it. But it's crazy how, gosh, what were the 2 or 3? But it's like you could just wait for an open door run up, and I mean, it's like crazy things in the market. But yeah, it's for me. I think out of last year, coming out of it, learning that for me in my portfolio, the best thing for me is to sleep good at night. And as much as I'd love for the market to be my full-time job. At this present time, it is not. So for me to kind of start investing, looking at it being, long-term holds and, the YouTube algorithm then flowing me into swing trading videos without me kind of knowing. Now I'm learning what swing trade is. And then before you know it, the algorithm's throw me into day trading. And I'm just like, wait, what? And now I'm buying FFIE shares.
Now you think you're a wizard at it, and you actually think you're
Exactly.
great
Yeah.
at it. You watch
I'm
great videos
reading
on.
VWAPs and RSIs, like I'm a true technical analyst, and it's like, I might be able to find a gap in the chart
They're
here
like
and there.
drawing some horrible trend line, and I think, you know what? Yeah, I could work at Wall Street. Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. Why haven't they picked me up yet? And so it's like, and I think I just want to wrap it back around to where if you're investing in Horizon and if you enjoy brand and if you believe in the company and if you sleep well at night, you've made a good investment for your life and your portfolio. And maybe I don't even say more than that. And but yeah, it's interesting to be investing in the eVTOL markets again, high beta. We're gonna have to be ready for these 15% swings up and down. And I think at the end of the day, I like Liam because you're gonna be emotional, you're gonna be raw, you're gonna be honest, and you're gonna kind of be I don't even want to say pessimist to optimist, but I think it's great again where you know I don't even want to say you, and I'll just say, like one can be surprised at the purchase of a Hawthorne airport, and then you can have somebody else that feels very calm about the purchase. And again, that can kind of help balance that uh, seesaw, the mental seesaw in it. And at the end of the day, if I'm the calm one about Hawthorne, that doesn't mean I'm correct. It might have been the better thing to be emotional and be like, what the heck are these guys doing buying an airport? And that's what we're going on in the earnings call.
it's a nice balance. You
Mhm.
sort of bring me back
Yeah,
down to the earth as well.
same.
Um, like says Liam keeps things in check. Do you know what? It's great
Yeah.
sometimes, and then other times it's like, do you know what? When it's going into meltdown, it's like, oh. I know me and Reese sometimes think about it, and we're like, some things we say, it's like, should we hold back a little bit? And then it's like, do you know what? Let's just let it go. Barista says, I'm an hour behind Liam, but already nodding off. Do you know what? Yeah, it's what, 5 to 2 a.m. So 1:52 a.m. over here. Do you know what? Big shout out, big commitment, my guy, for coming here. Good eVTOL therapy session, though. No, thank
Thank
you
you,
so
bro.
much for coming. You're always here, my guy. And you're a solid addition to the community. Flying a few people to a conference isn't that expensive, even if half scale tags along occasionally, not tons of money. Yeah, but it all adds up, my guy. Like everything adds up. Like then you have
Mm,
to put them up in hotels, and then you have like 12 million isn't like an endless war chest. Like I get worried sometimes about the 2 billion war
sure.
chest,
Yeah.
and I'm like, but how are we gonna scale up? Like Horizon have all this to come still, so that's where I'm like, it's just a completely different animal. Um, like Jackson says, we need to analyze everything. Canadian government investments for Harvard.
Mhm.
Government is still trying to split away from American dependencies. And Anthony says, haha, fair. Do you know what? I absolutely love this. I love coming here
Me
for
too.
um eVTOL Weekly. Do you know what? We kept it going. When I thought we were gonna pull eVTOL Weekly, I didn't know, are we gonna keep up with the project? Do you know what? I'm starting to get my love back for these streams again, and
I love that.
you're a massive part to play in this.
Oh, I
You
appreciate you.
you really do. You give everything. You leave everything on the pitch. You go so deep into the analysts throughout the week. So when you come on to any of these streams, you are so up to date. So I want to give you a big thank you, my guy.
You're the best.
Chat, do let me know. Do let Dylan know how appreciated he is. And you know what, guys? On the way out, do smash that like button. And if you haven't, smash that subscribe button. My name's Liam, one of the Hustle Brothers here with another OG Hustle Brother. We have Dylan. And you know what, guys? After you've banged that subscribe button, after you've smashed the like button, jump across to X and follow Dylan is Dylan at 11 on X. Right, guys? I will see you tomorrow for another therapy session in my car while ye are all having your lunch, probably. It'll be evening for me, but you know what? It is what it is. Right, guys? Until tomorrow.